if I, as an actress, was in a position where I was still just asking, please pick me, hire me, call me, I would be miserable. But to put myself in a position where, you know what, I'm gonna create content, I'm gonna write, I'm gonna direct, that has been so empowering, because now you really don't have an excuse to not make and do stuff.
Jennia Fredrique.
Hey, Corey.
Hello. Wife, mother, actress, writer, director.
Dang.
Queen.
Oh, it's a lot of things.
It's a lot of things. Welcome to Lend Me Your Lens.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, glad you're here. So I really want to start from the very beginning. You grew up in Gary, Indiana.
I did.
And did you have any clue, any idea that you would pursue this path of entertainment?
Absolutely. I knew when I was like 7 that I wanted to write and I wanted to act. I love the business. I love creating. So yeah, I always knew, and I had parents that were super supportive. They were hippies. They were like, yeah, whatever you want to do.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Now, how did they nurture that gift that they saw in you? What were some things that you were sort of doing along the way to kind of prune you for where you are now?
I actually started public speaking when I was 7. And I loved it. I loved the audience. I loved the applause. So I was public speaking all throughout the city at different churches, and I would perform Maya Angelou, Nikki Giovanni, different uplifting poems and speeches. Yeah. And I knew then that I wanted to do it, and I loved it.
Now, you have been able to sort of navigate this space for quite some time. Now, you started out doing commercials, right? So was there sort of this plan in the back of your head, like, I'm gonna start here, and then I'll be able to work my way here, and then I'll be able to do this? Or was it kind of happenstance and just happened organically for you?
I came out here, I studied theater in Chicago. I came here to act. That was the plan. And I fell into modeling, I fell into commercials to pretty much pay the bills. But the goal was, once I came out here, I worked, I had, several little jobs in Chicago, but the plan was, when I come out here, I'm not going to do anything else. I'm gonna be able to work as a creative and support myself as a creative. So that's what I did, and the universe kind of lined up to that request.
Right. Now, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got when I was living in New York in grad school, going through the whole intern kind of circuit and trying to get my feet wet in different things, came from Soledad O'Brien, who at the time was doing Black in America on CNN. Love and her. I asked her, I was like, what kind of advice would you give someone who's young and trying to figure out where they fit in this industry? And she said, Corey, learn how to do several things well. Don't pigeonhole yourself in just one thing. And I feel like that's something you've been able to do really well. So talk to me a little bit about how you sort of transcended from just being an actress to being a multi-hyphenate.
Thanks. Okay, so what I realize now is that the writing, while I didn't focus on it when I was in school, I didn't focus on it when I first came out here, it was always going to be the thing. It was always calling me, right? Content creator, that's something that I've always wanted to do. Before YouTube, really, I created a show, a pilot. We shot it in Paris. It was about a travel show, because at the time, the Travel Channel, I would go there because I love to travel. And I'm like, there's nothing for me. Like, where's the 18 to 35? It's all 40 and up. It's all boring. It's all white. So I'm gonna create, I'm gonna create a travel show. So I went to Paris. We shot this amazing travel travel show. It was all off the beaten path. No, like, we didn't even see the Eiffel Tower, right?
Right.
Which is actually what I did the first time I went to Paris. I went and I didn't even see the Eiffel Tower. I was like, what are the locals doing? Right. So I teamed up with Andrew Salt Productions, and they'd done work with Travel Channel Discovery. They loved it, loved it, loved it. We had a development deal, and Travel Channel eventually passed on it.
Okay.
Because they said, oh, we're afraid of the demographic. Now, they ended up doing the show.
Of course.
Just without me.
Yeah.
My demographic.
Yeah.
But they ended up trying to do something younger. So I always wanted to create content, right? So then it segued into, I have a show on Amazon Prime right now called Beyond the Talent. So we did that, and there's a couple of teasers that we put on YouTube, and one of the interview I did with Kevin Hart went viral. I didn't come here to disagree with you, but I have a smaller butt, and I think I do have a left cheek and a right cheek.
No, you don't. It's a fact that people with smaller butts don't even have a full butt crack. That's a fact. You can look it up. You can research it. It's a half a butt crack because they don't have enough buttocks to have a full butt crack.
And so we were able to have this show that's on Amazon Prime, which is great. I helped produce it, write it. I directed a couple of episodes, and I do that with my husband. And then it was, I want to do some movies.
Okay.
I wanted to get into film because I didn't feel like the roles I was being offered, they weren't satisfying me. They weren't giving me what I felt like I wanted to see. Yeah. So I wrote Sacred Heart. We shot it in Paris.
A love for Paris?
I think
maybe
I like
a little
Paris.
bit?
I think I'm a Francophile a little bit. Anyway, we shot it in Paris. Well, you know what? It didn't have to be in Paris, but I wanted, it's my calling card. I wanted to prove that I could make, 1, a film, 2, a beautiful film, and 3, something different, something that I'm always looking for something that's just a little bit different. So we shot the film in Paris. It ended up winning a bunch of awards. We did the whole film festival circuit, and yeah, I'm really proud of it. Jussie Smollett from Empire, a really good friend of mine. He ended up coming on as an executive producer.
Okay.
And either last year or the year before, we were able to, we teamed up with Essence, and they blasted it to all of their subscribers for Valentine's Day.
Wow.
I know, I was so happy because, usually it's a short, and usually shorts don't, the legs that this short has had it's been a beautiful blessing, and exceeded my expectations even.
Right. Now, and I've seen the film. It's a beautiful film.
Thank you.
But you hit on a couple of different things that I think are really interesting. So you talked about working with your husband.
Yes.
Right? And in Sacred Heart, you guys co-star in that. So was that sort of a premeditated creative development plan? Like, we're gonna do our own film, we're both gonna star in it, or did it kind of just happen that way, slowly but surely?
It happened that way.
Okay.
The first idea, he wasn't an actor or isn't even interested in acting, but I'd been running lines with him for years because, help me with this audition, and I knew he could act. So I remember just kind of, before I create or before I start to write, you just don't sit down and start, it's a lot of meditations. It's a lot of opening myself up to, creativity, or, I want to download something good. Right. So I'd just been in that space, and I just been kind of pacing and trying to figure it out. Days go by, and then this story comes to me. And I like the story, and I see the story from beginning to end. And so I call Soul and I say, okay, because he's a producer, and I'm always giving him, what about this? What about this? He's like, too expensive. No, we can't do it. So I said, I have this idea. You can't say no, but you have to be in it.
Another beautiful American woman in Paris. What brings you to the city?
I'm here because Paris loves me, and because they pronounced Michel better than anywhere else in the world, and to have an affair.
How does your husband feel about that?
I didn't ask him.
Does he know you're here?
I don't care.
You plan to go back to him?
No.
Well, then technically, you won't be having an affair.
And so I wrote it. He liked it. We were going to get some B-roll footage in Chicago because the therapist's office is in Chicago, and we were going to visit Jussie as well on set because he's on Empire. Oh my God! Right. So I said to him, I was like, okay, Jussie, because he'd been saying to me, write, you need to write, you need to write. I love what you know, some things you say, like write more, blah blah blah. So I said, so I wrote this thing. I was like, just sit down and read it. Yeah. So he read it. He was like, Jennia, I want to be involved in this. What do we have to do? Right. And at the time, it was like before the first season had started airing, so we didn't know how big his thing was going to be, and how much he added to our project. You know, having a name helps. It's Hollywood. Right. Yeah. And afterward, I remember we were looking for a big name for our therapist, and we couldn't find one. And after his show and everything hit, I was like, oh my God, Jussie, you were the name we were looking for. So yay. Yeah. Thank you. So having his name attached was just such a plus and a blessing. Right.
Now, what would you say were opportunities and challenges around shooting a foreign film, you know, overseas in Paris? Because I know that we have viewers who would love to do that. You know, they have their cities and their countries that they love and, you know, have an affinity for. So kind of talk to us a little bit about when you decide you're going to shoot a project outside of the United States.
Well, okay, it's like you said, you have to wear a lot of hats. Right. And Sacred Heart is kind of like, I consider it's like my Prince album. Yeah. I wrote it, I directed it, I did all the costume design, I did all the production design, I did all the hair and makeup. For the therapist's office, I did have makeup help, but for all the scenes, we had to continuity. We shot every interior in America here in Chicago. No, we had an exterior in Chicago, and we shot all of the exteriors in Paris. So we had to fake interiors here. So the continuity was terrifying because you could not forget a thing. I really had to learn how to do my own makeup. Right. And so I did the same makeup on myself every day for a month so I could match it when I'm inside that bar in Sherman Oaks. Right. And I come out that bar in Paris, it had to match. So I was doing my hair the same way, and so you have to be multi-talented. We wouldn't have done the film if we had to hire a hair and makeup girl to go with us. Right. If we had to hire a costume designer, none of these things would have been able to happen because we were spending our own money. Right. My husband started in sound. He's 2-time Emmy nominated. Okay. He's a producer. So having that skill set, he's amazing at putting together crews, and he's just a boss. Yeah. He's good.
So is it safe to say that you are where you are in terms of your career because of your partnership with your husband?
It definitely plays a huge part in my success. Yeah. And I believe a lot of successful people have that partner. Yeah. Because I'm really a creative, and that's it. Yeah. If I had to make the calls that he makes, if I had to produce and put things together, no.
Now, I know when people look at you, oftentimes they say, wow, like she just, you know, home run after home run, you know, all these successes and surrounding yourself around people who, you know, like-minded creatives. But has there been any setbacks? Has there been something that has sort of shook your world and make you question, is this really what I want to do? Is this really where I want to be?
Well, God, yes. Yeah. God, just recently I did a pilot for ABC with Whoopi Goldberg. And it was amazing. And they were like, it's definitely getting picked up. You know, it's gonna go for sure. Like, oh my God, they're excited. And it didn't happen. But forget about the pilots I shot. Let's talk about the no's. Let's talk about the agencies that aren't interested. Let's talk about you're not 20 anymore. There's so many things that are setbacks, but it's ultimately the story that we tell ourselves, and how we want to grow and evolve. If I, as an actress, was in a position where I was still just asking, please pick me, hire me, call me, I would be miserable.
Yeah.
But to put myself in a position where, you know what, I'm going to create content, I'm going to write, I'm going to direct, that has been so empowering, because now you really don't have an excuse to not make and do stuff, right? Like, what are you doing in the downtime?
Right.
What are you creating? Like, this is amazing. This is beautiful.
Yeah.
You're creating.
Yeah. Now, you spoke a few minutes ago too about, sort of your practices for not just when there's the lull and, not getting the callbacks, but just what keeps you rising day after day. So what does a day of getting Jennia started and at her best look like?
Okay. So I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual, and I believe and I connect with the higher power, and I believe in meditation. I believe in the power of the pen, writing down your dreams and intentions. I believe in trying to stay positive when you're going through the void, because when you're dream chasing, when you're creating, there is a void. Yeah. From idea to material, right, to holding it for it to be tangible, right. It can be rough, because I tend to, and I think probably a lot of people, I tend to look at the final product or look at where I want to go, as opposed to being present, like one step at a time. Like, probably when you came up with this idea, you didn't go to set the next day.
Right. Of course not. No.
But we as fast as we want it, that to trust the process is something that I'm constantly reminding myself to trust the process, to be present. Yeah. Like, while it's hard to feel successful when you're constantly looking at the end game, right? Like, but I want this, and I want to do this, and I want to have this much. It's hard to look at how great it is right now.
Now, you did something that I think is beautiful. You co-directed a film called 90 Days.
Yes.
That really touched on sort of a taboo topic.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about 90 Days and how that story came to be.
90 Days is a film that tackles the HIV and AIDS epidemic as it is right now. It's about a woman who, I don't want to give too much away, but there's a couple, they meet, they fall in love, and they decide to wait 90 days to consummate it. At the end of 90 days, he wants to propose. And at the end of 90 days, she wants to disclose that she is HIV positive.
And that's what I really wanted us to talk about, because I know myself, like, I have either met people or you know of people who have lived that experience, but we don't see that narrative played out.
Exactly.
Particularly amongst people of color.
Exactly.
So, was it hard to get people on board to tell that story? Because I think our viewers want to know, like, I've got an idea and I kind of want to tackle something that may not be, really accepted by mass audiences. So talk to me a little bit about getting that project off the ground.
Well, the first thing I always tell people, follow your passion. Don't think about the audience, because there's going to be someone that's interested in whatever it is that you're passionate about. The subject matter, I was on a TV show, Noah's Ark, and we had worked for years with Black AIDS Institute. They were a big sponsor for the show, and I was able to do a lot of volunteer work and be an ambassador for Black AIDS Institute. So it was already in my wheelhouse to want to be and to do work for people of color, especially affected with HIV. What happened along the way as we were creating this film that I was so excited about and passionate about the subject matter, I became obsessed with impressing my peers. And I found a lot of, it became about, oh my God, I want this to go to festivals and I want this to win. And when we met, we ended up getting this amazing sponsor. AHF came on board. And I remember we were sitting with Chris Johnson and he was just gushing about what this project meant. And it brought me back. It completely brought me back to why I wanted to do this project in the first place. And it was because I was like, oh my God, this subject, we need to talk about this more, because where we started with AIDS and HIV and where we are now is completely different, right? Yeah. Because we started with living with HIV, right? Well, we didn't start with that, but we got to a place where we could now live with HIV, right? But then the question becomes, now that you can live with it, how do you love with it?
Right. What does your life look like with it?
Right. Yeah. How do you love with HIV? And I was like, wow, this is something that we need to talk about. And Nathan, his inspiration came from a friend who felt like he would never be able to find love because he had HIV, and he ended up committing suicide, unfortunately. So the story, I wanted to tell this story because how do you love with it, and how do you navigate, and let's start the conversation, and let's end the stigma, because it's, the numbers right now in Atlanta are, they mirror those of sub-Saharan Africa, unfortunately. And Black women are among the highest cases now. So it was important. Yeah.
So now you've talked about your career, your husband Soul's career, but this is sort of a family business. Your son is also an actor and plays young Jamal on Empire. So you got to tell me first how that happened, but also talk to some of the parents out there who think that their child has that little spark, how they may go about getting their child involved in acting.
His story is a little bit different. Okay. He goes to this school where they focus on performing arts, so he gets to do plays. Love the plays, loves the applause. Sound familiar?
A little bit,
okay. So he says to us, and I remember this is a Sunday. We're all in the car, and my stepdaughter's in the car too, and she says, who's also in the business, I have to tell you about her, crazy. She says, you guys, is it normal to not know what you want to do at age, I think she was 11 or 10, 11 at the time. And we're like, yeah, of course, it's completely normal. You'll want to find, and you'll want to do so many other things, whatever. So my son says, not me. I know exactly what I want to do with my life. I want to be an actor.
Wow.
And we were like, okay. Yeah. And my plan was, I recognized that spirit in him, but I was like, well, you could do it when you're 17. I'm not interested in you doing that. No, you're not doing that. You're like, go play.
Right.
So after he says that, whatever, we're at a friend's house, Jussie calls me on the phone, and he says, Jennia, I'm sitting here with Lee Daniels. I show him a picture of Janice. He wants him to read for this role. We're having a hard time finding young Jamal. And I was like, what? So I say to Janice, I said, okay, Janice, this is crazy, but Jussie just called me. Would you be interested in doing this thing? And he was like, oh my God, yes, of course. I would love to. Right. So we were like, okay. We put him on tape the next morning before he goes to school. He's 7 at the time. He smoked it. He was so good. Now I think he's showing more interest to get back into it. And I'm kind of like, well, okay, a little something here and there. Yeah. But I don't know if I would want a long-term, TV show for him. But little things here and there, I'm down for. Yeah.
So, like with every guest we have on Lend Me Your Lens, we go to social media to see, okay, what is this guest's message that they put out to the universe? And so for you, we came across a little hashtag called God Bless the Freaks. And I was listening to an interview a few days ago with a young lady I believe you know and our viewers know, Miss Cree Summer.
Love her.
Who said, God bless the freaks and they shall inherit the earth. So my question for you is, what does God bless the freaks mean for you?
God bless the freaks. I use that hashtag a lot because it's about the outliers. It's the ones that that are a little bit different, and where I feel like every day we're finding our tribe, whether you know them personally or is someone that you connect with. It's the people that want to challenge the status quo, they came to shake shit up a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, the freaks, the weird ones. Because I feel like a lot of my friends, I have so many amazing friends, and I feel like in our schools or environments or our hometowns, we were the ones that kind of, you know, the nerds or the ones that kind of didn't feel like they quite fit. And I never felt like I quite fit until I found my tribe, you know? So that's what God bless the freaks means for me.
Okay. So now what is next for Miss Jennia Fredrique? What are you working on? What can we expect here in the future?
Well, Netflix offered me a $500,000 to do a stand-up comedy.
Okay, you should do that.
Show.
You should do that.
And
You got the chops for it.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I have
You
done
might have
stand-up, but
a few people mad at you, but you should do that.
I told them no, I didn't. I haven't had that. I'm doing a feature film.
Okay.
I'm doing a feature film called Savior, and I'm really excited about it. We're in pre-production right now. It's my first feature, directing, writing. Yeah,
and still a love for acting and being in front of the camera as well.
I do still love acting. I didn't think I would love anything more than acting, but the creating the world, and you know, I'm kind of like a Wes Anderson in my style of directing, where I like to every single thing that you touch, every single thing that's in the frame is kind of important. Like if you see 90 Days, I was able to create the look, and I did all the production design and costume design, and everything in the movie is green and blue.
Got you. Okay.
And I just love that part of it. But I do love acting, and I do love, and I will be doing more acting, and I'll probably do some Spike Lee-esque appearances in my films.
Okay. And the beautiful thing is you get to do whatever you choose to do. You set that intention, like you said.
Don't we all?
Yeah. So tell our viewers how they can keep up with you. Where can they find you?
Just go to @Jennia Fredrique. Look, I think it's on the bottom of the screen right now, even as we speak. If you just go to Jennia Fredrique, you'll see me. Instagram is Bay, so I'm not really on Twitter, or I kind of gave Facebook a break. So,
right.
But on Instagram, I'm on Instagram.
So thank you so much. Let's sit to a beautiful conversation and an even more beautiful person.
Oh, thank you, Corey.